So Jake, pleasure to speak with you. As the visual effects supervisor, obviously you're managing so much of the project and Marvel films. You take a look at these credits and just the amount of people involved is mind-blowing. And obviously you're working with so many great people, but what is it like steering a ship like that? Because I can't even imagine how many moving parts are going on.
It's in yes, it's a thing. There's no question there. You start off with a relatively controllable number of key visual effects companies that you know are going to be like. For example, we knew that Weta were going to do our final battle. We knew that Method were going to do the Moon of Shame. So you start with those kind of linchpin pieces, and then honestly, you try and keep it as sensibly contained as possible. But because of I wouldn't say it's Marvel factor. I think it's just making movies factor. Like the as you've shot the film and you start putting it together, opportunities start to show themselves in terms of like what the story is. Like a particular actor's performance might be stronger in this, or you might suddenly decide, well, what if we do this, and then we get additional photography, so you start adding more pieces. And so as to not overload those vendors, you end up bringing in more vendors. And then I think we peaked out at 25 different vendors on this picture. So from a practical point of view, and God bless you for asking this, because it's like, I tell you, it's definitely a thing for my team, because we're actually a relatively small team. It's like, it's myself and my visual effects producer, Lisa, like, the sort of key partnership there. And then we have a small team of coordinators, probably 10 or so. And then each of those coordinators has one or two vendors. And so what I do from a practical point of view is I start in the morning, because we're based in Los Angeles, start the day and talk to Europe, basically, and chase the sun. Go from Europe to London to New York, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Los Angeles, and then you head down into New Zealand in the afternoon, and then you get we had who else did we have? We had Adelaide. Oh, let's see, China. I mean, we just basically you sweep the globe is how you do it, and then you finish the day at whatever time you finish, because there's other things to do afterwards as well. And then you get up and you do the whole thing again, and you just chase and then you get used to different time zones, because you've got international date lines. So certain vendors will drop out because it's their weekend or it isn't, or suddenly Sunday becomes much busier because it's actually a Monday over in New Zealand, and at a certain point there's no weekend anyway. I mean, and why would there be? You just work.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you mentioned like having the final battle scoped out, and obviously so much goes into those. But what are some of the smaller elements in a film like Thor: Love and Thunder that wind up being difficult to nail, that like viewers wouldn't really think like, oh, that's going to be a huge challenge to pull off?
It's always, I mean, trying to come up with new things to do with the hammer. That's number one, because we've done a lot of things with the hammer and the weapons, trying to make lightning look better. I think I'll say that, because again, this is my fourth Thor film, bizarrely enough, and so you tend to get like a ton of effectsy looking lightning. So you try and basically make each battle sequence like the coolest that it can be. So like the fact that Natalie's hammer could split into multiple pieces gave me like another thing to play with from an action point of view. We now had, like, instead of, as somebody once said, if all you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So all of a sudden we haven't got a hammer, we've got like a laser guided machine gun. So it's just like actually kind of quite good fun, which only kills bad guys. So that's kind of fun, coming up with different ways to do that. And then I think just going through the picture, it's just the sheer variety. I mean, Taika, the bit that most people wouldn't, I don't think, take away from the film, because hopefully it's just done naturally, is Taika's edict from the beginning to me was, I've got these huge set pieces. I've got one in the Golden Temple, right? So we've got like all of the gods, right? We've got every single god you can imagine. And then we've got the shadow creatures, and the shadow creatures, obviously Gore cast them. Like, aside from a couple of key ones that everybody liked that we repeated a little bit, I'd say 98% of both of those huge categories have no repeats in, which from a VFX point of view is almost impossible, because there's always some sort of efficiency with, if you're doing like a football crowd, you're going to have mostly bipedal humans, in a variety of outfits. There's a certain, you basically roll the dice and you get a number of different variations. With this, it's like Tiger's literally like, I don't want to see the same one again. I want to see like big head gods, small gods. I want to see gods that are 18 feet tall. I want to see gods that are just made of eyeballs. I want to see that. You're just like, that's the opposite of what it was. Basically a challenge. He just was like, right, okay, you guys are going to come up with that. So I think from a casual point of view, from an audience point of view, you wouldn't know that. Say, if we take the shadow creatures, here's something that nobody would know about the shadow creatures. Every single shadow creature is born from a shadow, but its form is created based upon the thing that casts the shadow. So if, for example, like in the kid's bedroom, the first one, Molly's bedroom, the light source casts a shadow and it's a spiky pot plant or something like that, the resulting creature will be spiky. Like, or if you've got a soft shape, like a bicycle tire or something like that, the resulting creature will have tentacles. And so we put all this huge amount of backstory and development into this stuff that it's never explained. There's no point in the movie that the actors sit down and talk about like, well, these shadow creatures, well, they sure are scary. Well, I wonder why they look like this. No, there's just all they wanted was wave upon wave of demented Avenger, but it was crucial to the team at Marvel and to Taika that we have some sort of form following function. Like there's a reason that they do this stuff. It's not just a bunch of like cloney monsters. So stuff like that. There's just a million of those. If I told you how many rounds that we did on Jane Foster's little transponder that she uses to look at the pieces and get readings, you probably wouldn't believe it. It's just like so many. It had solid dials. It had this. It was an iPad type thing. It was, it had waveform readouts. All this stuff is like the invisible work that we're just doing every movie. It's really fun, super fun stuff to do. But I guess the only way it works is if people don't even notice it.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I love hearing about just how much heart and detail goes into these things that, just go on by while you're watching and you don't even really realize. And as you mentioned, you worked on all four Thor films. So I was curious what it was like just seeing his journey in this film, because like by the time he becomes like Dad Thor at the end, I just felt so satisfied as a viewer. So how's it been just seeing that growth on screen?
Oh, it's been lovely, right? Because the thing is, it's not just you see it on the screen, but you're also working with the same actors that I worked on the first Avengers picture, so I mean, I've worked with Chris and that gang, with Tom and those guys just for years. So you grow up as people. I mean, that's the thing, is like it's probably, I don't know, if I say it's 12 years or something since I started working on the first one. It could be true. It probably is. That's an awful lot of life to sort of to share with this. So to see the character, I think nobody was more surprised than all of us when Taika took Thor 3 and really just went like, really just tore it down and just went with the new playbook and broke his hammer, cut his hair off, stuck him on a planet where everybody else was a superhero already, so like there's no advantage to being Thor, and basically cut the teeth out of the whole thing, which I think was great. And then you couldn't do that story again, because that's like a straight downbeat story. So coming up with what's the thing that he fears most, and it's commitment, and it's people that he loves being hurt in ways, like was a really attractive and interesting angle for T to come at this one. I mean, it's ultimately gonna be a sad story because the heroine dies at the end. I mean, that's how that goes. But the journey itself, I think there's enough emotional complexity in there that, along with the jokes, there's enough room for Chris to really let the character grow. For me, it's great. These things come along every 4 years, and it's a privilege to be working on them. If there's one thing I can tell you that's cool about the Thor films, it's that there is no set playbook in terms of what you can put on the screen visually. If you're dealing with a geopolitical thriller or a film that takes place in a train, you pretty much know what you're going to be doing, like as your day job. When you sign on for a Thor film, the only thing that you do know is it's going to be absolutely anything. I mean, space dolphins were not in the pitch meeting. just coming up with that environment, like you got the space boat that's traveling through, and then what does space look like? And we went through, I mean, hours and hours and hours of collecting. I wanted to go with, I wanted space to look more like the super cool Doug Trumbull stuff, like from the 70s, like, all the stuff where, they were doing like oil and water and, like the original Star Trek movie, like the stuff like that, or 2001, where they used all this really just like strange chemistry, like literally physically chemistry, to see space. So I wanted to get some of that into this film, and and there's like some of that and that liquid kind of frozen aurora borealis thing that the goat boat's going over. But at the same time, I mean, if you told me at the beginning of the project I was going to have to work out the engineering, okay, there's going to be a boat, and it's going to fly, and it's going to be pulled by mega goats that scream, but we're going to have to make a rainbow bridge, and that we're going to take the axe that we gave him in the last Avengers picture and fire the Bifrost down, creating a solid bridge that the goat's hooves will then smash into, kicking up crystalline shards and ultimately destroying the bridge as the keel of the boat just cuts through the bridge. And by the way, we're actually going to make it a full rainbow this time. Like, we're not just going to muck around like we did on Thor 1 with the Loki Thor fight and on the bridge. It's actually, Roji Biv. We went full rainbow for it. So I think it's you don't get to do that on most films. It's pretty random.
Yeah, definitely. You have an incredible job, and the film really turned out special. So congrats again, and thank you for your time, Jake.
Thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It means a lot.